Can you believe it is week 11 of the Texas high school football season, last week of the regular season, district season, Midway, Thursday night against Copperas Cove. The Bulldogs at Bulldog Stadium, an old, antiquated type stadium. I've done games there many times. Midway's had great success there. And that closes out 12-6A. Everybody playing in 12-6A is playing Thursday night, the playoffs the following week. Midway, Joe Gillespie, head coach, joins me. You're in, you know that. You're Division I, you know that. All the enrollment and all that. But there is a chance you could slide into the number 2 seed if you don't win.
Correct.
Against Cove. And Temple just splattered them. It was surprising, 32-0. Rodney Southern, I've known Rodney. He was at Belton. He was at Marshall. He was at Huntsville. Hell of a coach. Done a good job. They're in the playoffs apparently as well. And this is a team that humiliated you last year to close out. I hate to bring it up, but
yep.
I remember it. I'm sure you do.
Oh, I remember it, and I brought it up. I'm making sure that we remember what happened, and we've got to go into their place. This time last year, we had cinched the playoffs, and we had pretty much cinched that we were cinched. Not pretty much, we had definitely cinched that we were Division I and that we were the 1 seed. So we knew that we were going to be hosting. Little bit of difference this year because we know that we're in the playoffs. We just haven't cinched that we are the 1 seed yet. And so you go take care of business on Thursday night, then we'll sit there and know our fate. Biggest deal right now is Cove is a playoff team this year. And so our kind of MO this week has been we're starting playoffs a week early.
Yeah.
Without the implication of sudden death. And but this is a playoff team that's going to represent our district. We get to start the playoffs a week early. And there are still some implications with this. And so, our kids have embraced everything all season long. And I think this is another opportunity. We've been on Thursday nights, a slew of games and every one of them out of town, and we get to do it again. And Rodney's done a wonderful job, and he has those guys playing at a high level. I don't know that the Temple score is indicative of what they've really been. And you don't know all the dynamics that was going on in the locker room there, but I know just like us, we need to be rolling into the playoffs with a lot of momentum.
I talked to one of the coaches on the Harker Heights staff. It was about they had a player that they wanted to put up for Player of the Week with Built for It Tough, and you guys have had some guys up for that too. But he told me he was watching film of the game. He said that score makes no sense because they did move the football. They missed a couple of opportunities. So it just might have been Temple was on their A game, and they're playing for their playoff life at the time and still are. So last year they overpowered you.
Correct.
They have the young man now as an offensive lineman at Georgia. His brother's going to Arizona State. They're big. The running back, KJ Ziegler's he's a junior. They just overpowered you. Do they have that same type of, DNA this year? I
think they do. And I think they understand the game a little bit more, and they're playing a bit more polished and playing all 3 phases of the game very well. And so I think these are going to be 2 great matchups. We talked about the parity throughout the district, all season long. And if you don't come out with your A game, then it's going to be a tough one.
So Rodney Southern, I mentioned he was at Belton when I moved here back a long time ago. He was at Marshall as well, took that to a couple of state championship games. They didn't win, but was there. And he's done a great job at Huntsville for a decade plus. And he's done this in a year. When I heard he was going to be their coach, I knew they would tighten things up.
Absolutely.
What do you know much about Rodney, whether you recruited or just know of him?
Yeah, so Rodney and I go quite a ways back, from my previous time being in Texas high school football, being at Stephenville, and, serving on the board of directors. He and I are around about the same age and things like that. And so we kind of grew up in this game and in this profession. And then obviously when I went to the University of Tulsa, I recruited Huntsville and got to know Rodney very well. And man, he had some great football players and some really good teams. And he did a lot of things at Huntsville to really change the program around, from not just wins and losses and guys on the field and program wise, but from facilities and everything. And so I feel quite certain he's probably going to do the same things there at Cove.
Yeah, and they need a little bit of a facelift at times. They've been kind of in a wander. It's been like 7 years since they were in the playoffs, and when Jack Welch was there, it was almost like clockwork. Of course, they had RG3 and others that were really good. Joe, this is it. And you mentioned the schedule has been like weird. So it's another Thursday game, and who knows in the playoffs as well. When you think of this team, forget about whatever else happens, and I hope there's a few more, but when you think about this team, what will you think about the most, just from at least the first 9 games?
From the first 9 games without playing game 10, this has been so fun just to watch. When we got beat last year after round 1 and lost our last 2 games and really kind of got humbled on our last 8 quarters, we turned in equipment that following Monday, and that Tuesday we went to work. And that's been tough, and not everybody has been able to handle it. Not everybody has been able to sustain and make it through with us. But those guys that have, they love this game, and when you pour so much and sacrifice so much into something to try to be successful and to change a culture and to bring in character and to build a program and then have success with it and start, laying a foundation. I thought we laid a foundation last year, but we need to sit there and start building some big walls and stuff. I think these young men have done it, and it's always interesting to sit there and watch the fruits of your labor from the time that we started, in really November last year with all season and stuff, and the time that you started and then going through the spring and there were some times that I wondered if we're going to win a game, and I think they kind of thought the same thing too. And there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And then you go through the summer conditioning, then you go through fall camp, and at fall camp, they just kind of started feeling it. You could kind of see now, hey, all of this experience that a lot of these young men have, they're feeling more confident, can play faster, all of those things. And so, when I got the job, I thought it was extremely important for Midway to have some continuity. They've had different coordinators, they've had different head coaches, they've had all this stuff. And so I wanted to, challenge was to bring in guys that would, give us some continuity. And we never want to take an opportunity away from gentlemen in this profession to go move up in the profession and stuff like that. But I wanted the kids to have, for the most part, the same coaches and the same type of offense and defense and STs and all that stuff that we do. And when you do those things, you start to see, we're getting to see the fruits of that labor. So it's been fun. It's been fun just watching them grow. We went out and we played the game this morning, what we call play the game, and it's as crisp as it can be. And we got so much stuff in, and their IQ of football is really, really out there.
From 2008, and I have my phone in front of me, from 2008 until 2019, Midway won 8 or more games, and most of the time 9 or double digits. We know about the state championship appearances in 11 and also in 17. But 9-4 in 2019 with Jeff Hume, who's now at Mansfield Legacy, and then COVID, the district flipped, and you have sometimes a gap of things when it comes to underclassmen, or like you said, the lack of continuity. It 2 wins, 1 win, 2 wins. And then they pulled it out when Esram took over as interim and made the playoffs. Actually were the number 1 seed in the district.
Yep.
And then lost to Waxahachie on a bad snap or a mishandled extra point. And then last year at 7-4, but there was a grind early, as you mentioned. You're 8-1. It would be the first time since 19 to win 9 games. And Midway, that's the standard.
Sure.
And so when you say change the culture, you hear that a lot. I don't know if I heard that a lot when I was going through the early parts of my career, but I understand what that means. What's that like? How do you know what the culture is and what you need to change? How long does that take? And it's not overnight, I would think.
Well, we as coaches and players too, I'm not going to sit there and say not them as well, but it's one of those things. I don't know that I can put an exact time frame on something, but I do know we want it sooner than later. And if I could snap my fingers and sprinkle some magic fairy dust and stuff like that, I would have done that a long time ago, because we want it now. the biggest thing I think for us is just you got to know how to win, and you got to believe in how to win. I thought there were some opportunities last year, and I certainly don't want this to come across wrong, because I'm going to tell you, I'm eternally grateful for that team last year, and eternally grateful for the leadership of the senior class, and man, they just kind of bought into everything that we were doing, and we only had about 9 months to be with them. And so, I kind of told them there's only so much change we're going to be able to make. So you're going to just have to buy in and jump on the bandwagon and stuff like that. It's going to be our 7th, 8th, and 9th graders right now that we're going to have the biggest impact with, and was very transparent with it. But I thought early on in the season, when we played Mansfield High, I'm talking about last year, when we played Mansfield High, we had an opportunity at the end to potentially go win the game. And unfortunately, we didn't. We turned right around the next week, go play Harker Heights. We have an opportunity at the end of the game to go win the game, and we just couldn't do it. And we were still searching on how to find wins and how do you make wins happen. We finally did one when we played Temple. We had to go 9. We had to make a four play stand at the goal line. Defensively. We do it. We got to march 99 yards with, if I remember correctly, maybe one timeout, and we got to go 99 yards with 4 minutes to go in the game, or whatever it is, to go punch it in and win the game. And we finally found, that was the first time since I got here that we found a way to go win, and that's hard. And winning in games in any sport is hard. Winning in football is hard. Winning at every level is hard. Winning in 6A and Texas high school football, that's hard.
Yeah,
and you better enjoy every single one of them. And I think the bigger difference now is that our kids have gotten a taste of how to do it. And so that's when you know that the culture begins to change, and there's not a panic. We talked about it several times. We've been down 21 and a half. We didn't panic. We came back and won. We had an opportunity against Harker Heights. We didn't panic. Think we could have beat them. But, unfortunately we didn't. We've had a lot of different obstacles through there, and our kids, I think there's just a sincere belief, and that's why they don't panic, sincere belief that we're going to go win this game.
There's certain players that get brought up every week, and we know who they are. But a couple of guys on defense that I like, Friesen. We've discussed him before. Yeah. He's he's junior, he really good, and he's got a brother coming up in the system. And he blocked the punt. You finally got the punt blocked, and then Torres with a recovery. And sometimes you can panic. I mean, like, get so excited you kick it through the back of the end zone or whatever. But that was flawless. The linebacker, Jeremy, did he just 36?
Jeremy Rodriguez.
Yes. Yeah. Jeremy Rodriguez, I saw him make a play. And there's others. I don't want to, when you mention one or two, then you don't. It's not that. But I just that's what I remember about last week. And some of and Friesen's been making plays before, too. Your defense, we've said this before, with all the injuries, you had a linebacker. They've all played hard. So a lot of those guys have gotten some snaps and are better. And what is your philosophy on defense? Bend but don't break. Don't give up the big play. What is the Joe Gillespie with all of what you've done in college and high school defensively?
Well, I think it kind of changes a little bit. I mean, it really does.
Sure.
And I think, I had a better philosophy maybe when I was at the collegiate level, simply because I got to recruit specifically for that defense. And so sometimes that changes a little bit, especially at public school level, high school level, because you're not getting to recruit, you're inheriting. And so, 1 year you may be a 3-3-5, the next year might be a 5-3-3. 1 year you may be a very blitz happy, let's get after them, and we'll live and die by the sword. And then the next year you might be a bend but don't break. They might march the field, but eventually that field shortens up and shrinks a little bit. And so, I think it's kind of been a mixture a little bit this year. From an offensive standpoint, I feel like we've been very, very consistent of who we are. We might have a quarter in there where, man, I wish we had that series back or that quarterback or maybe even that half back, and but been very, very consistent. I think defensively, we've seen sparks of where we're really, really good, and then we've had those moments where we've had the adversity. And the biggest thing that we kind of done is we played complementary ball. I think we played our best complementary ball last week versus Brian, because I thought all three phases were clicking off of each other. You know, the offense goes score, the defense gets a 1-2-3, we block a punt, we score, we do all those things, we get a good return, we get it in good field position, all of those things, and we played and we capitalized on everything. And then there's also been those times where you got to play complementary ball where, hey, we gave up a touchdown and offense, we need you to go answer it. And it's kind of been a I got your back attitude.
It's kind of like if you're in baseball, if you score runs in the bottom or whatever half inning you're in, your defense, your pitcher, you want to get a shutdown inning is what they call it.
Absolutely.
And that, or vice versa.
Yes, sir.
Your defensive line, you had a starter who's not playing now, and Jaden Anderson, the senior nose tackle, moves outside. He had seen him doing that. And then, of course, with what Cohen's done to come in, Cohen.
Bird. Grant Cohen's the one that hurt his.
Cohen got hurt, and his family's been a part of it. Bird, who had a big blow-up sack last week. Excuse me. And then but you had Jackson, Shane, and Garcia. Shane was an offensive lineman. They've mixed it in. They've rotated, and there's others too. I hate to leave somebody out, but Jaden he's really, no matter where he plays, right?
Yes, sir.
And and for him at his size to be able to play defensive end, that's got to be really nice.
It is nice. And you know, we like a mixture if we could. I don't know that we could always formulate this, but you like to have the ability to get really big out there at the defensive ends at times. And then you want to, Caden Bird is a guy that's kind of that in-between guy. He can be a big guy. He can put his hand down at it as a 3 technique if he has to but he's got some length, and he's got a good speed brush, and he's got a good long arm and stuff like that. Whereas Jaden's going to be, he's going to demand doubles and stuff like that. And so to give a mixture out there gets hard for offensive line sometimes, because you start playing one guy a certain way, and you start saying, hey, this is a skilled guy, a more athletic guy, and then all of a sudden you're going to throw a big meat eater on me and stuff. It gets a little bit difficult. And so Jaden has brought a whole new element to us, Jaden Anderson, a whole new element for us, and the way he's playing, because he can play across the line of scrimmage for us defensively.
Yeah, I think all 7 of your front, and I know Lane Alexander's he's been week in and week out, that like hybrid, whatever that position you call it, a safety, linebacker, star, whatever.
Sure.
But all 7 of your front 7 have had to change up at least once.
Yeah.
With injuries and or other reasons, they've all had different people who have played in those positions.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned it earlier. Just talking about Jackson Shane, who was an offensive lineman and was playing and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden we sustained some injuries and, a variety of things. And all of a sudden we got to move him over to the D line. And he just took on an attitude of very, very unselfish, and whatever I can do to help this team. And he's made a big impact. And man, he has played defensively for us in games and flipped right over and went on the offensive line as well. And that's hard. Yeah.
All right. So Cove on Thursday night, and 7 o'clock pregame, 6:30 is the 6:30 pregame, 7 o'clock kick at Bulldog Stadium, 106.7 FM. The Eagle also will have the video link that Midway.tv is involved in that too. That's up on YouTube. Good luck. Thanks for your time.
We'll take it, buddy. Thank you.
One more week for sure, and hopefully more. But it's this week at Copperas Cove, Thursday. Thanks to Garrett Ross. Thanks to our sponsors of the weekly high school podcast. With Joe Gillespie, I'm David Smoak.